Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
Okay, so this morning we are going to kick off today's session with Salim Rollins, who is the co-director of Synergy Yoga and the founder of Capoeira Angola Kibera. He offers trainings and retreats and online programs in yoga, Thai massage, and other healing modalities. He has maintained a dedicated yoga practice for the past 20 years. Additionally, Salim is a contramestre of the Afro-Brazilian martial art Capoeira Angola. He's a 25-year disciple of Grand Mestre João Grande, the primary elder teacher in the traditional form of capoeira. Salim is the founder of Capoeira Angola Kibera, a community-based program that uses capoeira to impart critical life skills and offer expanded choices to youth in the Kibera slum of Nairobi, Kenya. So, welcome to you, Salim. We are excited about your presentation. So, you can just jump straight in.
Great, thank you. Pardon, had to handle something logistical. Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. What I wanted to start with is a little piece on my personal background. And I'll be focusing this discussion a bit more on my work with Capoeira Angola than yoga, although yoga will come in as well. Particularly since this is the presentation on Africa, and I thought talking about how some of the kind of philosophical tenets of capoeira have contributed to our community work, and just how, in specifically the community work that I do, but also can be instructional and informative around community work in general, and how we are building community would be useful for this particular forum. So as Sapna said, she gave a brief bio. My name's Salim Rollins. I'm a practitioner of Capoeira Angola. I started in 1995, so 25 years now I've been practicing. I'm a yoga instructor as well and co-direct a yoga school, Synergy Yoga. Been practicing yoga for 20 years. And I wanted to start off giving a background on Capoeira Angola to give a kind of framework for some of the things that I'm going to share. So Capoeira Angola is originally from Central Africa, specifically Angola and Congo. We typically consider this region Central Africa, or you could say Southwest Africa. And it was developed by enslaved Africans who used their, I'd say the roots are in Angola. Central Africans used their martial skills and martial arts culture in the context of the transatlantic slavery. So we say that the roots of capoeira are in Central Africa, but I like to say it blossomed in Brazil. And so Capoeira Angola is an Afro-Brazilian martial art. And it uses a lot of Central African kind of philosophy and ideas, even movement culture in the way that it moves, such as evasiveness, elusiveness. And in addition to, in a lot of African martial arts, it's important to have kind of rhythm and ritual within the context of how you practice. You find that almost everywhere on the continent. And by extension, you find that almost everywhere in the African diaspora where Africans were taken. So this marriage of the martial arts, and you have them throughout the African diaspora. There are numerous forms that are not as well recognized. Basically everywhere where Africans were taken, they brought with them their kind of fighting arts as well. And on the continent, in Africa, typically, as in a lot of Asia as well, you'll see this in like Thai boxing, things like that, this ritual aspect, but also the music, the marriage of the fight and the music, the rhythm and the music is central to the philosophy embedded in capoeira. And so that piece is, so we'll start there with that kind of marriage of music and movement, which we also see in African spiritual practices, the way that in a lot of the continent that spirituality is expressed is through movement and dance. It's not a static, it's an embodied practice. So you're really feeling spirit in your body. You're hearing spirit in the music that's being played. And that's really, really important. And we'll kind of circle back to why that's important, I believe, in community building a little bit later. So over the years, this art form, it was from Angola, kind of developed in a lot of different ways. And I won't go into details, but there are many different incarnations or chapters, or many ways in which the art form expressed itself depending on the particular circumstance it found itself in. But some of the things that were consistent are the fact that it's practiced inside of a circle, what we call halda. Again, typical of a lot of art forms, particularly on the continent. And the quality of the oral tradition in capoeira, which is expressed through the music. And I'm actually going to, a little later, share some capoeira music with you, because for us it's an embodied thing. We don't like to just talk about it. My master is my teacher. He's an elder, and he doesn't like to talk a lot. He likes to just kind of get into it and do it, and I respect that. So yeah, I'll share some of the music. So that piece is very important. The ritual of it, practicing in a circle, the musical quality, the rhythm that's inside the art form, and this marriage of music and movement, right? Which I think is a really fundamental expression of human spirituality. We've always had, music has always been, it's one of the first ways that we have expressed ourselves creatively as beings, right? Is through the voice, through music, words by expression. And so in capoeira, we have that oral tradition through our music, and the music, the songs that we sing, are really the element that kind of hold the history of our art form together. So it informs us about stories about our elder teachers, this kind of respect for elders within the art form is very strong. It's very important. And this relationship of teacher-disciple kind of reflects that. So in capoeira music, you'll hear a lot of conversation around, descriptions of someone's master or mestre, or kind of giving a lot of reverence for elders in the community. And also the ancestral piece comes in as well, because you're also singing about mestres or teachers who came before, and what they did, and particularly ones who, had a lot of positive qualities. So we hold that as well in the capoeira oral tradition, which are the songs. So we have the halda, the circle, we have the corridos, the songs, we have the bateria in capoeira, which is the percussive orchestra, which consists of 8 instruments. Again, not important to go into details about that, but what is important is that in the history, the story of capoeira, Africans, of course, couldn't bring any possessions with them. And yet they were able to fully bring their culture with them. Their language, which eventually did transition into Portuguese in Brazil, although there are still a lot of Bantu phrases and words that we hold in capoeira. So some of that came through, but certainly the culture, which includes the instruments. So making the instruments, holding on to some of these sacred instruments, which were both used in some of the martial forms, but also in spiritual spaces by healers. So I'm going to share one of the instruments that that kind of carried over from Angola to Brazil. Eventually, I'm, by the way, from New York, from the US, and so made its way to the Americas and the Caribbean, and is now circling back to Africa, which to me is very exciting. This kind of return of culture, and also this element of, in a lot of ways, some of the ancestral forms of capoeira Angola don't exist anymore on the continent. There's been so much culture that's been lost or transitioned out on the continent of Africa, but was maintained or retained in the African diaspora, and is now making its way back to Africa. So there is this amazing kind of circular cycle and opportunity to return for the kind of, for sort of the children or the grandchildren to come back and share things that have been lost on the continent. is a really important kind of healing process for us in the culture and community. So I think what I'm going to do actually is go right into sharing some music with you, because we like to, like I said, we like to do. We don't just like to talk. So I'll share a few songs with you, one original composition, and then a couple of other more traditional songs in capoeira, and then I'm going to translate them for you, like loosely, and tell you what the kind of meaning behind the songs and why those are important values in capoeira. Yeah? Okay. So I'm gonna move. I'm not just staying static today. And interestingly, Sundays is typically like our holiday, the day that we have our capoeira circle at my teacher school. So I'm happy to be presenting today. Give me one sec just to reorient your visuals. And I hope the sound comes through okay. I know it's sometimes a little bit hard on Zoom. I know that because I do a lot of capoeira classes on Zoom.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're good? Okay. So this instrument is called a berimbau. This one I made. It's made up of a cabasa. A vega is the main stick. Kashishi. We have a baqueta, it's a little stick, and we have a coin called a dobrão. Yeah, and we have the most important instrument is the voice. Okay, sounds okay? So that's just to experience a little bit the music. That's one of the instruments. There are more instruments that we use in concert with each other. But this instrument is called, as I mentioned, the berimbau. Okay, you'll find this a similar instrument from various parts of the continent, and it is used by, like even here in Kenya, I'm in Nairobi, Kenya, the multiple ethnic groups use it, including the Kamba and a few coast tribes as well, primarily for healing purposes. So it's very interesting that this instrument found its way into capoeira, it was used in Brazil, but eventually it kind of married with capoeira. In terms of the
And let me
music,
just ask you
yeah,
also there, like, what is it made from? What is
sure.
the
Oh, I can show you. I don't mind moving around a little bit. So that, so this main piece right here, the round piece is a gourd. You can see I've got a bunch of gourds here behind me, and we make them. So before it's kind of cut, okay, it would just be a calabash, right? A gourd that you cut.
Okay.
My son's joining me. I'm doing a presentation for people. He's just waking up. Okay. He needs a little love this morning. Late. He had a late night. So that's a calabash. And then the kashishi is the rattle, right? Is made of like wicker, we call in the US. I don't know if we have another name in Kenya, but I don't think we have too many.
It's like, yeah,
It's
it's
reed,
made
thank
from
you.
reed.
Yeah, reed. So we kind of weave the weed, the reed. Let's try that again. And we put seeds inside, right? We put little like seeds or beans, but usually seeds. It's a specific kind of seed. So this one's just held in the hand. So when you're striking it, it makes a natural sound. You don't have to do anything, you know, for that sound. But it can be played on its own as well, right? Independently. Like people sometimes are really good at kashishi. They play two of them at a time. The metal piece, which strikes the wire, is usually brass. It's like cut brass. But back in the day, you usually use like a stone. And then this is just the vaqueta as a piece of wood. But there's specific kinds of wood that you use. I'm currently kind of researching what can be found in Kenya for these pieces, including the main wood, which we bend in the birimbau, is a specific kind of wood from Brazil called beriba. There are a few kinds of wood in Brazil, but beriba is the primary one. Yeah. In terms of the songs that I sang, the first one was an original composition. It's called A Ladainha. And basically what I'm singing about in this song, it says that I was called to the capoeira circle one day. Certo dia numa roda, chamou pra jogar. Era capoeira Angola, eu cheguei pra vagiar. It was capoeira Angola I was called to play. So we say playing capoeira, not fighting the art form. This African dance, which turned into a fight. So, you know, out of necessity, capoeira became a martial form. But, you know, it has a lot of dance-like qualities in it. It says the power that came from the Congo, the Mandinga from Angola. Okay, Mandinga in capoeira, when we say Mandinga, of course, is the Mandinga tribe or Mandinka. In capoeira, it describes, you could kind of say your spiritual, your sort of energy or chi or kind of spiritual energy, but also your efficacy as a practitioner. My son saying that we used capoeira to fight against other countries. That's sort of true, not 100%, but that's all right. He's contributing still. And so this idea of Mandinga, right? Your elusiveness, your personal spiritual energy is how I'm going to describe how we say Mandinga. Because even back in the day, people would say mandingueiros, like someone who had that quality, whether they played capoeira or not, was a mandingueiro. So someone who had a certain energy or ability. Yeah, but it has a spiritual sort of a spiritual concept behind it.
Would you say that it's like would you say that it's like your sort of your unique frequency because it's different for everybody, or is this something that sort of describes it as a collective spiritual energies? Maybe like what you bring in as your unique frequency into the circle.
I think that's true. Yes, I think that's true. And even outside of the circle, because we talk about capoeira, the circle being a microcosm for the world. So the things that arise in the circle and your ability to respond to it should be kind of contributing to your abilities to kind of, and when I say abilities, I mean some of it can be sort of conflict resolution. There's a lot of that within the capoeira circle, but also your ability to kind of create the kind of space you want, to engage in relationships with people, and to know when to kind of protect yourself as well from people. So all of these subtle things in human relations come up within the context of the capoeira circle. And so your Mandinga is your kind of spiritual ability on a personal level, yes, to navigate all of those things. Yeah, which comes up both in capoeira and our engagement with people in the world, I would say. So that's a good question, Sapna. But there's another song referring to manjingas that says, Minha manjinga não dou pra ninguém. Minha manjinga não dou pra ninguém. Eu não dou pra ninguém. Não dou pra ninguém. It means my manjinga, I don't give to anybody. So there is a thing in capoeira in terms of protection. Yeah, and that's a song you might sing at a particular time when you feel like someone's trying to kind of like come in your space a bit, then you would sing that song, kind of letting them know. It's almost like a warning shot or a way to play with, I'm protecting myself spiritually, or you can't kind of take my energy from me. So there's an appropriate time to sing an appropriate song, and all of that kind of timing and the nuances of that comes into play inside of our ritual, right, inside of the halda.
Yeah.
So very good question.
I know we could talk about this for hours, and I wonder if Dr. Yugandhar is here and Ma is here to jump in. Good morning, Ma Tejomai. Hello, Dr. Yugandhar. Please, I know I didn't mean to cut you off, but we can start sort of winding down and bringing it to a close, I think.
Sure, that's great, Sapna. Yeah, I kind of can go on forever, so I lose track of time with it. The last piece that I'd want to bring in is that I think that in terms of this, you know, how this art form in particular is relevant, useful, and really supports community building is, one, I think the actual kind of rituals of it that is singing. Let's start with singing and playing instruments. This is a fundamental human quality, just something that we do to express ourselves that really, I believe, connects us with spirit, right? It's one of those fundamental, you have it if it's chanting, if it's mantra, if it's, you know, but the voice, music. And so in community spaces, while doing it in a circle, it's really, I think, a very important healing element that in a lot of cases kind of gets marginalized or pushed to the side or isn't a central component of our culture or our lives. Oftentimes there are not a lot of spaces where we have that regularly, unless you're going to church. Maybe there might be singing, or whatever your religious institution, then there's still spaces for that, or your kind of culture community at holidays and religious spaces. So one, I think that piece, reconnecting with the circle itself, the physical circle. So being able to see each other and being able to have different people inside a circle, you know, be seen at different times. And so that sort of equanimity is very balancing. Yeah, I think those are some of the main things that I wanted to share in terms of that piece. And I know that I'm aware of the time as well. So if there's anything else, feel free to pull me in, but I know that we're moving on with the schedule. So I don't know where you want to go from there. I can keep talking, but let's keep it moving if there are more presenters, Sapna.
Yeah, I mean, there's a video that I need to play, but anyway, that was amazing. And like I said, I love it when you talk about all of this sort of ancient form of movement and how it helps people in their own healing journeys, and, you know, bringing in sound, because obviously sound was the creator of the universe. And so we can, every time we, you know, sort of move away from that sound, and we definitely start losing a piece of ourselves, and we forget that it's even just in the breath and the sound that we can immediately bring ourselves back into that spiritual alignment.
That's right.
And so we can sort of pause there, and while I have you on screen, I will present you with your certificate of appreciation from the World United for participating as an esteemed presenter in the 3rd edition of the World Parliament on Spirituality 2020. So